about we organize a little sortie to perk up their spirits?
A field exercise. With live ammo, of course. Eddie, I like the way you think.
And I like the way she plays Battalion Wars for the Nintendo GameCube.
You can execute combat roles. Nice shooting, son, but let's keep...
If you're an enthusiast of handheld strategy games, you may be familiar with Nintendo's Advance Wars series. And if you're familiar with Advance Wars, you have impeccable taste in handheld strategy games as well. But what about those of us who prefer to take up arms ourselves instead of waging war with turn-based combat? Well, that's where Battalion Wars drops its bombs. Released for the GameCube in 2005, Battalion Wars is an offshoot of the Advance Wars series. Although, fun fact, it was originally intended to be a sequel, not a spin-off. In fact, early in its development, the game was called Advance Wars Under Fire, but the name was changed to better reflect the differences between this game and the Advance Wars games. And rest assured, although they share a similar look, Battalion Wars is an altogether different beast. Like Advance Wars, Battalion Wars is a tactical strategy game which offers a colorful and animated twist on the deadly enterprise of war. But really, that's where the similarities end. While Advance Wars wages war on gridded maps with turn-based combat, Battalion Wars engages the enemy with what are essentially the mechanics of a third-person shooter. You control the soldiers, you fire the weapons, you fight the war. So if you enjoy strategy games but prefer the real-time variety, Battalion Wars offers precisely the kind of hands-on approach you'll love. And personally, I think it's a much more satisfying and enjoyable approach than the command from afar feel of Advance Wars. I don't know, maybe it's because I like to shoot things. And Battalion Wars gives me plenty of opportunities to shoot things. Boiling tensions between the western frontier and tundran territories have finally spilled over the pot. And that's where you jump into the skirmish. You'll control a variety of frontier battalions during the course of your missions, each of which has its own strengths and weaknesses, and you essentially give them orders. They mobilize and attack in accordance with your commands, so although the game may look as though it emphasizes pure action, attacking with a strategy is the only way to win this war. If a tundran battalion of bazooka veterans open fire on one of your tanks, for example, they obviously need to be a priority. And fortunately, an attack from your rifle squadron, which is a speedier group with more rapid firing weapons, should do the trick. But meanwhile, you need to be formulating a plan to capture the enemy base. Which side do you approach from? Do you flank them, and if so, which squad should you send in first? It's a lot of fun to have total control of the war from both scheming and shooting perspectives, and to do them both in real time. Because of the degree of control you have over the mission, it's very rewarding when it's accomplished. But if you're anything like me, and you just tell your soldiers to crank some Slayer and bring the war ensemble, well, fuck this, I suck.
No more infantry left to capture the castle, Commander. Mission failed.
So the strategy and battle mechanics are solid, but ultimately, the game's visual style is the biggest obstacle to overcome. And I say that because, unlike most of the war games you're probably used to playing, Battalion Wars paints a picture of war with a very colorful brush. It's a lighthearted and cartoonish style with loads of humor that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a war game, sure, and the battles are intense, but in a way more reminiscent of Tom vs. Jerry than East vs. West. And that's actually one of the coolest things about the game. The visual style really complements the serious strategizing and war-making gameplay well, and the game has a distinctly playful look and feel because of it. It's a lot of fun, and if you're into RTS games or even just action games in general, I definitely recommend locking and loading with Brigadier Betty and Battalion Wars.